I think like what you just expressed is a little bit the point of this podcast. It's about learning new things and inspire other people,
Absolutely.
And the fact, as you said, learning languages is the same way. So what I will like to start is always like in this podcast, we try to inspire the community of bartender out there, give them some wisdom. And I'm pretty sure you have so many stories that you can tell us that can get people to the next level of their career professionally, but even like personally. So that's why we are sitting here in New York. And hey, how you doing? Here is Joe. Is a big Joe speaking.
Hey.
I love that. But as every podcast, we start always from the beginning. I can feel you're really passionate about everything you do. And I know you for a little while now. We've been meeting somewhere around the world, and
like 4 different countries.
In different countries, like that's how we roll. That's how we roll. Let's say. And I would like to understand a little bit more how your passion for bartending became what it is. Your current, role.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird sort of road towards where I've gotten today, obviously, with most people. But yeah, grew up in San Diego, California.
Which is a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place. Everybody's like, why did you leave? I remember surfing in California before I went off to college. And I went to college at Syracuse University, which for people who know Syracuse University it's very snowy. It's very cold. It's in the Northeast. It's Syracuse, New York, not New York City, Syracuse, upstate New York. And I remember surfing the summer before going there, and people in the lineup talking to me like, "You're really gonna leave this? You're gonna leave the beach and the sun and all these, the beautiful surf to go to Syracuse?" And I don't regret it at all. But it was tricky and tough. But yeah, no. So I grew up in San Diego. Sort of had 2 passions that I was following. It was oddly golf and acting. Grew up a big golfer. Played a lot of junior tournaments. Captained my high school team. But wasn't quite good enough to sort of get scholarships and get sort of interest in college coaches and stuff like that. So decided to...
Is it true that it really like make you concentrate a lot? Like he gives you like, the strength to be focused?
100%. Yeah. And still even, it's one of those things that I worked really, really hard at to get good. And yeah, that focus that it requires it's similar to focus behind the bar, frankly. But yeah, so I auditioned for a few programs to study acting, to get my Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting or drama, and to go to a proper conservatory, and got into Syracuse University, which is a top accredited acting school, and went there for 4 years, learned a ton, showcased in New York, and spent the first couple of years auditioning, and like most kind of actors in New York, kind of fell into hospitality. That's kind of the natural sort of side job, if you will. And I opened a luxury hotel in Midtown as a bellman. I wasn't behind the bar at that point. I got a job in hospitality and wanted to sort of sink my teeth into that a little bit. And so opened that hotel, moved to the front desk, learned a lot there, guest services and guest relations and all that Forbes 5-star training, my pleasure, absolutely, those things. And
the service was turned into an experience.
Absolutely.
Make them feel like you were there for them.
And you start to kind of see that the service is an art form. And I think that's something that I know people talk about it. It may be cliche, but it is an art form. There is an art form to that level of hospitality and that service, and making people feel, oh wow, this is a special place, and they're treating, because I use the example of like white glove versus not white glove service. There's some people that come in to that hotel or to the bar or wherever it is, and they want that white glove service, and there's some people that don't. There's some people that don't want that whole super high end service. They just want to talk to a friend or another person, and but yeah, so I worked at the hotel unfortunately unionized, and had to get out. It just wasn't a good environment. I'd always been interested in bartending, and had always been interested in getting behind that, and I was so fascinated by watching these bartenders. And I remember being at a bar in Midtown, and watching these bartenders make old fashions. And this is back, 10 years ago, and, watching them make old fashions and whiskey sours and, margaritas and martinis, and just like, wow, like, how do they remember all that? How do they do all that? And so I got a job at a dive bar in the Village, and it was fun, but not sort of my speed. I think I wanted to do more cocktails, and they were hiring bartenders at John George Public Kitchen in the Lower East Side at the Public Hotel. And I remember sitting down with the woman who was interviewing people and hiring people. Her name was Maria. And I sort of credit her with sort of giving me my big break, if you will, And I remember the thing she said to me. She goes, I see on your resume that you don't have any cocktail experience. I was like, no, I don't. I don't know what I'm doing. She's like, but I also see that you have acting training from Syracuse University. So it seems like you can either act like you know what you're doing, or more importantly, you can pick up on things and you have personality and you can, I'm like, yeah, of course. That's what I've done my whole life with acting. And she said, I can teach you how to put liquid into a glass. What I can't teach you is personality and charisma. And you seem to have that. And I said, yeah, I think, absolutely. And sure enough, she hired me and she gave me a shot. And I remember my first shift, somebody ordered an espresso martini, and I just did, absolutely, of course, come right up, whatever it was. And then turning to my coworker, like, what's the recipe for espresso martini? Because it's like the whole, like, the expression of fake it till you make it, and that sort of
figure out
false confidence, and you
yes.
convey this commanding presence. And then, if you don't know, if you're unsure, okay, you ask somebody, or you get guidance on that, but showing that you're confident in what you're doing is,
the most important. I want to say something about it, that us as a bartender, we can do anything in every side. My DNA as a bartender, not that I'm practicing right now, but it's the spirits, as you just said. Yeah. I say yes first, and then I'll find the solution for it in whatever I do. And that's like one of the most important skill you need to have as a bartender.
100%,
and that moment, when it was the moment that you said, like, that's it. That is when I wanted to be a bartender. Yeah. It was like a specific moment, a specific person that inspired you, a specific time, because you said, I've been watching people making cocktail around the world. It was something that is in your mind that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think there was many moments, but one that kind of comes to mind is, I remember being in an Uber on the way home from one of the shifts that I was working, and still feeling that. I remember feeling the visceral feeling of being a bartender, and that whether that's the liquid coming out of the bottle into the jigger. In fact, I was using a jigger at that bar, obviously not using a jigger anymore. But you pouring into the jigger and pouring out of the jigger and measuring and the sound of the ice and the shaker and the feeling of the cadence of the shaker. I just still remember that feeling in my bones after a long shift, and think like, man, there's so much involved in this whole process. It's not just hospitality; it's creation and it's magic. And
you had a move in your head,
absolutely. And I think that for an artist like myself, as an actor, right? So many times as an actor, you're sort of executing other people's words or other people's direction, and I think that as a bartender, you're doing the same until you get to a point, and I think it comes a little bit easier even. To execute your own sort of creative expression and your own creative direction, in a cocktail that you're making, or a hospitality that you're creating for a guest, an experience you're creating for a guest, and facilitating that sort of interaction. And I think that for me was like, oh wow, it kind of a light clicked, and I was like, this is something that I can use all of those passions that I have, and those that creative expression that I've been doing for so long. I can kind of channel that into this. And it's frankly, bartending is. People ask you, do you feel like you use your degree in your job? It's 100%. I mean, as an actor, we improv, there's back and forth, there's emotion involved, and that, I mean, for people who've been to Employees Only, you've seen, the music and the lights and everything and the vibe and the energy. I mean, there's definitely times that we're tired and everybody, we want to go home or whatever it is, but we bring that energy, and we bring that because it's so important for people to experience that and to ride that wave with us. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the moments. And then I remember feeling that sort of that energy of wanting to work super hard starting at Employees Only. I met Frankie, the bar manager now with me, and Alejandro, the current bar manager at the time. We worked together one summer in Brooklyn at a bar, and they brought me on the team. I asked, and they said sure. And
if you don't ask, you don't get it.
Exactly. And I was like, I want to try. I know it's a long program. I know you start. Yeah, sure. You know, we'll give you a try. You know, we'll see how you do, that kind of thing. And I remember feeling this like, I'm gonna put every bit of my effort into this. I don't know what it was, but it was something that I was gonna devote my entire energy to. And I had not felt that with acting. I had not felt that with, frankly, even golf back in the day in high school. And I remember feeling this passion towards doing something, that giving my all to something, and giving my all to the team, to the bar, to the, to my career as a bartender. And I think that realizing that the bartending, at that time, bartending was okay. Yeah. It's a side job while you do something else. And I think that has gone away, I think. And I think a lot of people and a lot of industry leaders have really
took it so far out that actually is a real profession.
It's a profession.
And we need to state it out there. Absolutely. Constantly, because it's a reminder to everybody that being a bartender is not just a summer job
100%.
Or I don't know what to do with my life. Probably could start like that. But if you put your heart and you are passionate as you are, because I can feel it every time I come to a bar. You said it earlier, like, I feel like at Employees Only, I'm it's like a stage. I feel it like it's a stage, and you guys just you making like the show ongoing until whatever is the time until the chicken soup is arrived. So, and then we're gonna say a little bit more about it. But I think it's really important that we state it out there and we make it. And you just said it. My question is like, who has been your first mentor? Has been Maria, that she gave you the opportunity in a way, or who are your mentor? And
I think Maria definitely gave me my sort of big break. But I think mentor wise, more specifically at Employees Only, one of the sort of most skilled bartenders I've ever seen, Mitar. He worked there for a long time, and he kind of took me under his wing as a senior bartender at the time, took me under his wing and sort of guided me on things. And he's a Serbian guy, and he was very intense. And the way that he guided me was it was harsh. He was very harsh when I was not, meeting his criteria of what I needed to do as a bartender and as an apprentice at Employees Only, and would sit with me and talk with me, and he just the care for passing on the lineage. And I think that's something that really is special about Employees Only. And we've been there for 20 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary this December, and the way that I think that we've been so successful in keeping that lineage going is exactly what Mitar was doing with me. And it's holding people accountable, teaching that lineage, driving that new crop of bartenders or apprentices forward, and really training them to fill the shoes of the people above them, and carry on that legacy. And obviously change with the times, and new technology and new creative expression and all that stuff you're kind of going with that, but that passion and that work ethic and
the value don't change.
Of course,
the trends change, but the value they don't. Absolutely. And I think Employees Only really made a big statement out there since over the last 20 years, as you just mentioned. How was your day one at Employees Only? How was, like, tell me from the moment you get into the door?
It was overwhelming at first. And I think I the week before was my birthday, and I remember coming in and was quite drunk, and Frankie, of course, noticed that I was drunk. Frankie and I were friends at the time, not as close as we are now. And he pulled me behind the bar to pour shots. And I remember getting behind that bar for the first time, and you kind of step up on like a wood platform. It's like 1.5 inches, which is, it's great for people who aren't necessarily vertically gifted, as you say. And
I love it the way how he says it.
And you have a little bit of height, and I remember looking out the people. Again, I was a little bit drunk, but I remember looking out at the people like, wow, this is a crazy point of view. You're here and you're kind of behind this bar, and that sort of that commanding presence that you have, and then can pull me to the center of the bar, pour shots, and I spilled everywhere. I was, whatever. I was a mess. But that feeling and looking at the setup and just thinking like, this is unusual. This setup, like it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. Now, obviously, I get it. But at that time, I was like, oh, interesting. And we set up things so differently than most bars, just because of the free pouring and because of that kind of thing, and just a limited space behind the bar. But yeah, and then first day at EO I remember putting on the black shirt with the logo on it, and just looking in the mirror and wow, I'm here, And I was, I was still like in a very much trial period, but thinking like, having that logo that now I have tattooed on my arm, and it's, people even at the bar, they come in like, oh, you must really love this place. Yeah, we really do.
It's inside me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think, and just, especially because I started a couple years before the pandemic happened. And then after the pandemic, everything totally changed in New York, especially. And there was a lot of things, we didn't have an overnight porter, and we didn't have some of the kitchen staff. So a lot of the sort of the back of house stuff, the pre-shift stuff, cleaning the bar, cleaning underneath, that stuff I had to do, It's
a different type of way of working. Would you like to tell us a little bit, because it's so different, probably employees only, how does it work for someone that from day one, he walks through the door and he goes through the whole process you had to go through? Like, how does it work, the system?
Yeah. And I say, like, everybody says, we start everybody from the beginning. I don't like to say the bottom. I like to say the beginning, because it is a program, and it is sort of a.
That's what is fascinating me about the employees only, is the program.
Yeah,
they take it really professional. It's like that's what it should be.
And there's a lot of criteria that goes into it, and what we sort of want to. We want to sort of enforce with people coming on board is that we're not hiring bartenders necessarily. We're hiring personalities. We're hiring people who we can spend more time than our family and friends with, and people who have that work ethic, that drive, that ambition, to want to succeed and make themselves into career bartenders. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. And it's a long program. I mean, it takes a long time to sort of make it to the principal bartender level. But yeah, I mean, to touch on your question, so everybody starts, at the beginning. You're in charge of prep. So you're learning all the prep that we have for the cocktails. And you're in charge of that. And that kind of teaches ownership, that teaches sort of leadership within yourself. But more importantly, you're learning kind of what goes into these ingredients, so that everybody that has gone through the program knows how to make these cordials and these infusions and these syrups and those kinds of things. And then, you start, we call it's a bar back, but we call it a stalker. So you're opening the bar, you're closing the bar, you're helping kind of keep the bar going and making sure that everybody has what they need. And again, organizing and leading yourself, and having that apprentice there who's the service bartender, which is the next step, having that apprentice guiding you and showing you the ropes and showing you how to move behind this bar that's 3 feet wide. I mean, it's so small and so tiny, and the way that we kind of move behind that bar is so precise, and it needs to be so on point. And then the apprentice levels, you get your white jacket, you're looking good, you're feeling good, and that sort of power that comes with that. But you're still an apprentice. You're still learning. You're still garnering information and education, and in charge of service tickets for the floor, in charge of some of the bar. But you're also training, and I think that's one thing that I've had the opportunity to learn as a bar manager, is having that training to manage people, because I never managed people before. And having to manage people now, and manage a bar and manage staff now with Frankie, it's a skill that I've had to learn, and I've made mistakes, as everybody will in those circumstances. But given that opportunity to manage and to learn how to deal with people, and how not everybody's the same, and not everybody's going to take things the same way. And that's a beautiful thing that Employees Only has offered me is the opportunity to manage and to guide people and to take people under my wing and to show them kind of, this is how you're doing it. I would recommend doing it this way. If this is uncomfortable for you, we'll find a better solution. That kind of thing.
Meeting point in between the way how you feel and the way how you should be done.
Absolutely. So yeah, right. I think that's sort of the ethos of what the program kind of brings, and yeah, and then the principal bartender, obviously you're in charge of the vibe and in charge of the sort of the overall experience at the bar.
Il capitano, the captain.
Say.
That's how we say. No, it's wonderful. And it always fascinated me. Since the early days, I was like, probably one of the things that I really missed in my career, it was be brave enough to leave London and move to New York. And on my list, it was Employees Only, one of the spots that I really wanted. But now here we are, so I'm taking back the knowledge 20 years later, but still really valuable advice. What can I say to you? In my head is, you've been working out your career and you are in the middle of your journey, I will say, or whatever is your path with Employees Only. What really influenced you from Employees Only that you apply still to this day? Like that you feel like this is like this thing came into my life and now it's with me and I'm going to take it anywhere I will go or anywhere I am or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of things. I think work ethic, certainly for one. The way that program sort of ingrained itself in me was going above and beyond and sort of exceeding what it is that's asked of you in your duties and responsibilities, to work towards a better bar, making sure that the staff has what they need, and really giving it my all. And that has improved my work ethic tremendously from the beginning. And, organization and all of those things that kind of go into being a solid team member of Employees Only, that only comes from work ethic, and that only comes from having a good work ethic and having a good sort of frame of mind. But yeah, I think, sorry,
work ethic. Work ethic.
What was the second part? You said something else. Sorry.
No. I think you answered fully, because it was like what influenced you, and something that you will take with you. The work ethic is what you just said.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, the being that manager, obviously you're having to sort of guide the new crop of people coming in, what they're sort of experiencing, how they want their program to lay out in front of them, guiding their careers to be prosperous, like mine is, or like Frankie's is. And I think that's also really, really important.
This will lead me to a question. What will be the best advice you can give to someone out there, like on managing a team?
Everybody's different. I think you can't, I've learned the hard way that not everybody is going to respond the same way that everybody else is. You're really having to tailor each, like you're tailoring each guest experience at the bar, you're tailoring each managerial experience, and each time you train somebody, it's going to be different. They're going to respond to things differently, and they're going to be better at things than other people and worse at things than other people. And you have to sort of steer them in the right direction to improve those things, to reinforce those good habits. Because I think that's like, oh, well, so-and-so is really good at cocktail creation, or so-and-so is really good at guest experience. Okay, that's great. Don't leave that to the side, enforce that and say, hey, I love that you're doing all of these things. I love that you're really passionate about cocktail creation, but let's work on, how you speak to people at the bar and how you approach people at the bar, to really give them that, okay, I have that sort of badge of, I do this really, really well, but there's, a badge that I need to sort of earn, and that's, X, Y, or Z. And everybody's so different. And looking at our team now, every single individual on that team they're extremely hardworking. They're extremely dedicated. They love being there. And I remember that one night a woman was sitting at the bar and she was kind of like looking at us, and she was so like sort of curious, and she kind of stops me. She's like, are you guys drunk? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, are you guys drunk? I'm like, it's like 8 p.m. Like, first of all, no, I don't really drink much behind the bar. And Frankie wasn't drinking at that point. And it was me, Frankie, and then Dimitri, so the apprentice, and Kostas was our stalker, another great guy. And I was like, no, why do you ask? She's like, you guys are having like the time of your life. And I'm like, well, first of all, I see these people more than my friends and family sometimes, so I know them better than most people. But secondly, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want to work with people that you have fun with and that you give off that energy of wanting to be there and wanting to, you're so passionate about this place and about this bar and this experience. That to me is so special. It's so important. And I see it with so many bars in New York and abroad that you walk in like, wow, this staff is happy to be there. They're just, they are so passionate about the bar that they work at, and that passion and that joy of being behind that bar, it's intoxicating. And it's really, I can't stress that enough, that, having fun behind the bar, that reverberates into the guest experience.
You're cross-pollinating your guest
exactly
with your happiness,
exactly.
Like, let's say like that.
Yeah.
What it represent for you, employees only, right now?
I mean, it's 20 years of sort of a cocktail program that has, changed a lot, but stayed true to who it is. And it's a place that we're never gonna sort of scoff at somebody who orders a vodka soda or we have a regular who comes in and orders tequila soda pineapple. Never once am I gonna, really, bro, you're not gonna order, come in, drink what you want to drink, be who you want to be. I mean, this is your experience. We're here to help you do that. And I think that sort of that vibe at Employees Only of come as you are, and we want to reinforce who you are and the experience that you want to have, and we're here to help you get to that level, and here to help you sort of achieve that in your night. And hopefully you stay till the soup, hopefully we want you to stay all night and party with us and take shots with us and just have a good time.
You beautifully executed every single time.
Absolutely. And there's times where, late in the night, people are drinking vodka sodas or beers, whatever. And you have, you see that it's like the industry person walks in, you kind of can read it. And then they order, mezcal Negroni and a shot of Fernet. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, we get it. You're in the industry. What bar do you work at? And then that kind of starts a conversation of, yeah, I work at this bar out the street, and I
different directions.
It's like amazing. I'm Matt. I'm one of the principal bartenders here, and oh yeah, that's awesome. I got to check that out. Whatever. We start a conversation, and I love that about EO too, and that we have a kitchen open till 3 a.m. So a lot of staff members or a lot of industry workers in the neighborhood or in New York really come in for late night food. They come in for to hang out with us, which I think is such a blessing. I think it's so amazing that we have that still.
If you've been to New York, you've not been Employees Only. I mean, you've not been to New York. And that's how we say it loudly. Now, maybe let's dig a little bit into the creative process, because already from the beginning, when you see every cocktail bar around the world, they have their mixing glass or their cocktail shaker on the top of the bar. And with you, the experiences start really different. Would you like to tell us a little bit how everything, is set and why you do that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our R&D process is really open. It's really led by the team as a whole. We don't say like, oh, well, because you're a stalker, you don't get to. I mean, we have cocktails on the menu that were created by some of the stalkers, which is amazing. And that's something that we, again, with the program, we want to reinforce. I'll give you an example of one of the cocktails we have on the menu now. I'm an actor, so I like movies. One of my favorite movies is Lord of the Rings. I view the trilogy as one movie, but I'm a complete fanatic about Lord of the Rings. And so I was watching Fellowship, and for people who know the movie, they know the scene, but there's the hobbits are on Weathertop, and they're hiding from the ring race and this and that, and they make a fire, and they cook food because that's what hobbits like to do. They love to eat, and they love to party. And then Frodo, the main character, he's like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you cooking food? Like, put it out, put the fire out. You're going to attract, the bad guys. And then there's a line. It's such a throwaway line. It's a nothing line. But Pippin, one of the other hobbits, says, oh, nice, ash on my tomato. And I'm like, that's a cocktail. That's an amazing starting point from a cocktail. And so I texted Kostas, who's one of our stalkers, who he's very, very knowledgeable about cocktails, and he's very, very knowledgeable about Lord of the Rings. He has a whole sleeve of like the characters in Lord of the Rings on his arm. And so I was like, we gotta do something with this. Let's meet tomorrow. Let's brainstorm about it. Let's figure out something that we can sort of bring to the table. And obviously, ash, right? It has to be smoky. It has to have some sort of smoky element to it. So we thought, Isla Scotch and mezcal and ash. We want to create the experience of ash, on my tomato. And so we used like kind of a smoked lava salt. So it's like a black lava salt rim on the side of the Collins glass. And then, tomato. We roast the hell out of these tomatoes. And he's Greek, so he wanted to use some Greek elements as well, like feta brine and stuff like that. And so we clarified it, carbonated it, and it's like beautiful sort of thing with mezcal. So it's a Bloody Maria with mezcal. And it's so good. It's so amazing. Pairs really well with all of our, our food items as well. But it's just more so than anything, it's just a perfect example of a beautiful collaboration between a principal bartender and at that time, a stalker, and
the passion in between the two, like that you're sharing, which is the Lord of the Rings. And it's beautiful. And that's, I guess, the best idea and the best cocktail become like the classic,
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, passion. I mean, telling a story through a cocktail is just, it holds so much more weight, and that sort of creative expression it's always such a joy when I make that cocktail. I always think about that,
And which are the ingredients or the ingredient that are really exciting you today?
Well, we have another cocktail on the menu with, it's sort of meant to mimic a raspberry cheesecake. And I wanted to incorporate ingredients that would transport sort of the guest into like biting into that raspberry cheesecake. And we used Scotch, biscotti liqueur, and raspberry, pineapple, and I used cream cheese. And I think that cheese in general, but specifically cream cheese, it's such a beautiful way to add that kind of that richness, but also give it that velvety texture, because we clarify it. Sorry,
yes, of course.
We milk clarify it.
It comes out really elegant and clean and
clear, beautiful, bright red.
But the fattiness, the notes of the fat side of the cheese, they really appears, I guess.
Yeah, you get that kind of brininess and fattiness from the cheese. But it creates this beautiful velvety texture like you would get with a raspberry cheesecake, right? And so I really love using kind of those ingredients to sort of add a different dimension to the cocktail as well. Umami ingredients I love as well. We have a cocktail with dashi soy, which is really nice and kind of gives that little umami pop.
It's quite difficult to play with it, I guess.
Absolutely.
With the soy sauce.
Because you can go too far really quickly.
I would say that. Yeah, exactly. You can go too far, or, you're like, oh, it doesn't taste much. But then it's like that little drop, it just...
Exactly. Yeah.
Make it all wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking to someone, now that you said about the raspberry cheesecake, I was thinking like my early days, as a bartender, I was working at Lab in London. And one of the drinks that I loved it with all myself, it was the tiramisu martini. Oh, yeah. And it was with mascarpone cheese.
Yes.
And at the time we were going through, I don't know how much, Patron XO, the coffee Patron. And I was like, this is like exactly what I wanted right now. Yeah. I want to bite that tiramisu. And everyone loved it. So now that you are mentioning it, but we were not clarifying back then,
No, yeah. But...
Back then it was a different story, The maximum we could do, it was lemongrass vodka. I remember that we were putting inside the bottle and put the bottle of vodka with the lemongrass inside the washing machine, because the hot process, it will infuse it faster. And then we were doing like vanilla sugar, so with the real vanilla pods. And I was it was my first task. It was
Nice.
doing that. You come in the morning, vanilla sugar, and then you need to do this, and then prepare all the things for the tiramisu martini. It was
Yeah.
like,
Oh, that's amazing.
you bring me back a memory.
I love a tiramisu too. I love tiramisu.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, even if you're full pasta, pizza, whatever you're having,
there is always space for it.
tiramisu. Like, absolutely. 100%. Please.
yes. It's a kind of thing that is a must. Is a must. And you speak a lot, about underrated ingredients. What it means for you, underrated ingredients, and is there anything that you think like it should be pushed a little bit more out there that is like people don't really use?
Yeah, I mentioned cream cheese. I think that's something that people should use more, but I think truffle's also a really fun ingredient to play with, because it's almost it's kind of weird, because truffle in a cocktail, truffle oil, it is so pungent on the nose. So, the guest kind of puts the drink up to the nose. It's really strong truffle taste. It really doesn't come off as much. So you can it almost like, it's like a little bit of deception in that. And I think that kind of creates a fun sort of it's a playful ingredient in that regard. But yeah, I think like I said, with these umami ingredients and these different ingredients that are more so found in food, bars like Double Chicken are doing so many amazing things with like sort of bridging culinary and cocktails and creating that kind of really wow experience. I think that is something I think is maybe underrated, is using those culinary ingredients that you wouldn't necessarily find. Even the Ashamite tomato drink, we're using paprika, herb de Provence, using those spices to kind of create that sort of savory, beautiful pop, I guess. Yeah.
Do you think that those ingredients that we say underrated ingredients are coming from the word of the chef, from the cuisine?
100%. Yeah, and I think that it's something that I think a cocktail menu should definitely should balance each other out, the cocktails on the menu, but I think they should also pair with the food if you're serving food at your bar, like we are until 3 a.m. frankly, and that's something that we in the R&D process we really try to emphasize is, this cocktail is amazing, this cocktail tastes delicious, what does it pair with? What does this cocktail go with? And does it pair well with the bread pudding? Does it pair well with the cheeseburger? What doesn't pair well with a cheeseburger? But does it do it in an artful way? And does this cocktail have a place that can kind of really fit into that puzzle piece of what our cocktail menu needs to be, in respect to the food as well? I think that's a huge part of it. Especially when you're involving like culinary ingredients.
I see that. Don't you think that over the years, like now from your experience and probably even what I've been living, like over the years, the trends change quite rapidly, many things, and we shift a little bit from the cocktail bar that you go only for cocktail, when it's a cocktail bar where you can have some food as well. There is that kind of transition. Where do you think the industry is going? Like, what do you think will be the next trend or the next step for our bartending world?
I think we've come such a long way, even since the pandemic. We're, even the last couple of days, I've had conversations with people in the industry in Tokyo and now with somebody from London and we have these relationships all over the world. And that is helpful with, more and more bar shows coming up, more and more guest shifts, hosting people. We just had BCB here. So, hosting people from all around the world that come in and want to experience employees only. And I think that we're really doing a great job in creating this beautiful community, and the bar world has just become so much more communal than I think it ever has. And we did, for 50 Best North America, we had I think it was like 9 different bars from New York that came together for one night, in Vancouver. And it's like, we bring, you look around, we shot the promo for it, at Clemente and look around this table at all these different people, these figureheads from these bars. I'm like, we're so different. All of us are so different, and we bring so many different things to the table, literally. And being able to sort of share those experiences and share that knowledge and share that sort of artistic expression that all those bars have with each other, I think that's going to just continue to be reinforced. And I think it's going to be something that we will continue to sort of, reinforce and explore more, and make this global community even smaller. I mean, it seems so close knit, and I love that. I love that, we have this tight community from all corners of the world.
I love that you're so passionate about what you're talking.
Yeah.
We can feel it, it's really transparent. Do you think this is a kind of a obsession of what you're doing?
It has to be. I mean, it has to be. If you're not obsessed with it, then
you will never exceed your energy, your feeling 200%, I guess.
And that's something that I remember, we had, going back to the acting thing, we had a guest speaker at college, who mentioned that we as actors have to do this just as much as we want to breathe. We have to be that passionate about it. It's already a hard career. It's already, sort of impossible in so many regards, right? In order to be successful at this, and if you really want to do this just as much as you want to breathe, then go for it and do it. And you have to have that level of obsession and that dedication. And I think the same thing applies here. I think you can make a living by not being obsessed. And I think you can, I think the beautiful thing about bartending and hospitality in general is you can, it can be a side job for people. But to do it on the level that these industry leaders are doing it, you have to be obsessed. It has to be your passion, and it has to be everything that you kind of throw yourself into.
It's your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
There is nothing
100%.
more than this.
Because if you, again, I translate it to acting. If you're watching a Broadway show, and I saw a show the other night, actually, Glengarry Glen Ross, which was amazing. But watching those actors on stage, and man, they're so passionate. They're so involved in what they're doing, and that brings everybody, calls everybody's attention. There's nothing worse than watching somebody that's not passionate about something.
Does it just for the money?
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And passion can come through the camera, come through your eyes, you can feel, I can perceive it right now.
Yeah.
Now, being passionate and be obsessed sometimes in the mind of certain people can sound kind of bad, because of the work-life balance. Would you like to tell us a little bit more? How do you manage it?
Yeah.
And how it works for you, and what's important for you?
Yeah,
that you want to bring it on?
This is something that I was just actually talking to a couple team members about recently, is having work-life balance. I mean, you have to have work-life balance. Yeah, I mean, obsession and passion is great, but you have to balance it out with things that sort of can take your mind off of work and help you return to work in a better state of mind. For me, I have a few things. I've mentioned the golf. Still very passionate about the golf, play it as a hobby now. And that's something that I love to kind of work on my swing, kind of get everything kind of going in the right direction. But I've recently gotten into cycling, which is a great way. I did marathons years ago, and the running was always good, but the running was like, when I would run, I would think about 18 different things. It's my mind kind of still wandered while I ran. But cycling, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but it's really something that I focus for 3-4 hours, however long I'm riding. I'm not thinking about anything but that. And I think that's really helpful for me to sort of refresh and reset out of work, to just go and just do that and just focus on that in the gears and the shifting and climbing and descending and all those things that go along with cycling. Pushing myself, really working hard to improve myself my fitness and my speed and that kind of thing, but focusing just on that and having something that I'm not thinking about anything else, just that. And that's been really helpful with the cycling, the golf as well, but certainly the cycling. And then, my wife's also in the industry. She works at Sip and Guzzle as a bartender, and she does social media. She's also an incredibly skilled photographer. So she has a lot on her plate. She's very, very busy, which is amazing. And I look at her and I'm always so impressed, and I'm always so, I don't know if proud's the right word, but I'm always in awe of how she kind of handles everything. And we need to sort of take the time to sort of step back and take time for ourselves as well. Spend time together. Like tonight, we're going to see a movie. We haven't seen a movie in a long time in the theaters. She's gotten really into Mission Impossible, and so the new Mission Impossible is out, and so we're going to go see that tonight. But taking time with your loved ones. I know you have a kid. Doing things like that to sort of reset yourself and come back to work in a better frame of mind. And that's kind of what I was talking about with this staff members. I asked her, I was like, when was the last time that you did something for yourself? Not with anybody, like did something for yourself at another place. She couldn't remember. I'm like, that's not good. That's not something that we want to bring. I love that you're dedicating so much of yourself to this place. It's amazing. But in order to give yourself to something, you need to also take care of yourself. And that's what I tried to reinforce with her, to sort of get people in that right frame of mind. And I think that's, as an introvert, I'm just naturally introverted. I've always been an introvert. Everything I've done, I talk about the cycling and the golf, and I was surfed back when I could surf in San Diego. Everything I've done has been solo, and I love being independent. And I've always just kind of been that way. And, of course, naturally I end up in the most extroverted part of the world. I mean, it's like,
I was thinking where the switch.
Yeah. I mean, it's for people like Frankie, who's, he's my brother. I love him. But he's so different than I am in so many ways. And he's so extroverted, and he thrives in that sort of extroverted environment. And for me, I have to kind of calibrate that and learn how to be extroverted without pushing myself too far. Living in the uncomfortable, being comfortable in the uncomfortable, but knowing when, hey, I need to do something for myself and take care of myself. And I think that's super important.
He helps you to keep being passionate and being loving what you're doing.
Yeah, of course.
I find it really, really similar what you just expressed for myself, and you need to dedicate yourself. You need to take those hour or 2 hours, if you can, every day or every few days, just to get yourself and kind of reset.
Yeah.
Sometimes people ask me like, but you don't go on holiday, or do you do holiday? I'm like, I'm on holiday every day, 1 hour. When I go on the red mats and I put the gloves on, that is my holiday. And that's what I wanted to be for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
And maybe I'm too extreme, and probably in certain aspects I'm not that balanced, but still, it's my point of view of what you just express in a way. From my side is, you said that, the mental health we were talking earlier is really, really important. How do you go through a process to maintain your mind strong? It's literally the sports that you just mentioned, or there is any other type of support that you feel like is essential for you to be part of it?
I think it's essential. So for me, I view myself as a failed athlete. I played a lot of sports growing up, whether it's baseball, hockey, surfing, golf, whatever it is. And I always chase kind of the feeling of being a professional athlete. And I think that the closest I've gotten to it is working a shift at Boys Only. It's so physical, and it's so mental, and it's so rewarding in so many ways. I mean, I absolutely love working behind that bar and carrying on that legacy and that tradition. But it's taxing, it's grueling. And for me, I have, especially on busier nights, I have a pre-shift and a post-shift routine that I sort of do. I won't share too much of it, but it's something that I do before the shift to sort of get me in the right frame of mind to come into the shift with the right sort of mind space. Because I've come in to the shift after doing 16 different things during the day, and then come in and thinking that I can go into a shift after doing all these different things and not having a reset period.
It's a kind of meditation.
100%.
Okay.
100%. Whether that's on the train, whether that's before in the shower, whatever it is, before the shift, having that sort of reset of like taking deep breaths, breathe in, breathe out, that kind of thing, to get myself in that right frame of mind. And then equally important, a post shift, because we're 10 hours behind that bar, and people don't realize, every time, you're in the POS and then you kind of turn around, there's 6 people that want something from you like right away. And that stuff is like, that can wear on you. And I think that the sort of metaphor I use in my mind is not trying to swim upstream and not fighting against that current of the people wanting, really falling into that and flowing into that river of like people and guest service and people might be drunk. It's just, that's frankly our doing, it's like, that's part of that's part of the gig. But knowing how to also, after the shift, I, in the Uber on the ride home or and again in the shower after the shift, doing something to reset yourself, to calm yourself down, to bring that energy level a little bit down so you can sleep properly, that kind of thing. For me, it's listening to classical music or listening to a podcast or whatever it is to sort of like, okay, the shift's over. You're going to go home and you're going to, really, really decompress and get yourself into a better state. And for me, especially for someone like me and for people who are listening who are also very introverted, it's so crucial. It's so important because we have a battery. We have an extrovert battery that we use, and when it's full, it's amazing, and we can go and we can talk and do shots but that battery, it wears out sometimes. And when the battery's low and when it wears out, we need to sort of clock that and we need to calibrate that and know, for the sake of our own health and our own well-being, to know when that time to recharge is and when to decompress and when to really take care of ourselves. And you have to find what's right for you and what's going to be good for you to sort of get you off of that high energy kind of thing and into that meditative state, and vice versa. And yeah, I think it's so important.
Such a beautiful advice.
Yeah.
And everyone can do in their own way. That's what you are trying to say, I think. But it's really good to have a specific time. You know that you're about to, and then you just finish like a thing, and then now you're about to jump into another thing. Also because you have responsibility as well as a husband, right? And you have responsibility towards your family, which it doesn't mean that you prioritize your work or you prioritize your family. It's just like there is a moment for that and a moment for that in a day. And 24 hours, if you sleep 8 hours, it's good. If you sleep a little bit faster, as Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say, then you can do many more things. Right. But no, really please. And this will lead me to the following question. What will be the best advice you will give it to yourself? What will be the best advice you will give it to your younger self?
I think, for someone who kind of, well, here's what I'll say. Don't try to fit into what you think you're supposed to be. Be who you are, and be who you are authentically. And learn how to use your characteristics and your skills and your attributes that you have as a person and utilize those and reinforce and strengthen those versus seeing somebody else or whatever. And, so-and-so is more, I have to be more like that. I have to emulate that. I have to be more like that person. And I think that's a trap. I think that if you try to do that, you're not being, it sounds so cliche, you're not being authentic to yourself, but you're not. And you're never going to be as good at that as that person. That's who they are authentically. And you can't chase that. But what you can do is strengthen who you are. as a person and the things that you bring to the table. And so that's, I think, what I would try to say to myself 10 years ago is don't forget about what they're doing. Forget about what they're, they're great. They have all these things, but they have things that I'm sure they're looking at you. So, man, I wish I was more like Matt in that regard, or whatever. I think that staying on your path and doing what you know you're good at and what your strengths are, that can only lead to success, I think.
Yes. You are where you're meant to be.
Exactly.
Right now.
Yeah.
And with everything happening. Well, from my side is there anything from your point of view that you think has been a biggest takeaway from the whole career that you have until to this date, that you're like, this is what I've been learning. This has been like something that I want to pass it on to the next generation of bartenders. Can be anything.
I mean, I think it's kind of in the same vein of, we talk about, I talked briefly about managing different people, different personalities, and finding their strengths and reinforcing those strengths, and not sort of, not diminishing anybody's light, not diminishing anybody's good qualities, and reinforcing those and having them improve the things they need to improve, but also, reinforcing those strongly, not leaving those out to sort of, they're good at this, and we don't need to sort of touch upon that. No, those are things that will bring you further in your career, and then we work on the things that need to be worked on. But yeah, I think reinforcing strong characteristics and things that people are very, very good at, I think is something super important.
We love it. I think from my side, I don't have any more question. Unless there is something that you want to mention right now, some news, anything. Here you are.
No news. No news right now. We're working. We're now on our 20th year at Employees Only. We're still recovering for the 20th anniversary. Believe it or not, in December. No, but we have a lot of amazing events lined up for the year. We're super excited. We're keeping that fire going at EO at 510 Hudson Street. And yeah, definitely come by and see us and take a shot with us. And
I will later. I will later for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, what can I say? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for giving us that kind of wisdom and the different point of view of your experience. And I'm pretty sure all the people out there, they can surely appreciate it. So guys, if you've not been to Employees Only, take yourself, put the shit together and go. Okay? Thank you, brother.